it's another action-packed edition of Weather for Weather Geeks here on Thursday, February the 11th. We're in the busiest part of the whole winter. We've got tons to talk about, so let's get right to it. We, of course, have had some snow recently. No surprise, February is one of our snowiest months. Actually, it is the least snowy month of meteorological winter. When you look back at history in Youngstown, January takes the cake at a little over a quarter of our annual snow occurring in January. Second place, 22% in December, and then just barely below that, February at 21.2. And you may not realize that March is not far behind February for snow. Now, part of the reason for this is there's more days in March than there are in February. But of course, most of our snow that occurs in March historically occurs during the first half of the month anyway. But still, kind of some interesting statistics there, and we have caught up some this week with the snow. We are still well below average by about half, but we've made up some ground this week. The official number at the airport for the winter now, 20.4. And an average, or the average I should say, going back through history here in Youngstown through the 11th of February is about 40.9. Last winter by this time, we had 53.6 inches of snow. So what's that? Over 2.5 times the amount of snow last winter than this winter. We called for much less snow this winter, although we didn't think it would be this paltry of a total. But I'll tell you, I think we're going to add to these totals again a couple of times over the next week. So our snow depth across the region is looking reasonably impressive, especially, of course, off to the north of Youngstown, where we had more common 3 to 6 inch amounts yesterday into last night. Now, a few spots picked up that much in Mahoning and Columbiana counties, but it was much more isolated. Most of Mahoning, Columbiana, and Lawrence checked in somewhere between 1 to 3, maybe 2 to 4, something like that. Pretty healthy snowpack up in the snow belt. All right, Storm Tracker 21 is quiet this evening. Our flurries continue to wind down. We've had these off and on, I should say, flurries and snow showers throughout the course of the day. But now we are even seeing a little bit of clearing of the sky, and that's really going to allow temperatures to plunge tonight. I might end up having to lower our forecast a couple of more degrees tonight. I took it from 11 to 7. It might go down to 4 or 5 before the night is through if we get enough clearing. Temperature here in the 7 o'clock hour is down to 12 in Youngstown, 14 in Pittsburgh, 15 degrees in Cleveland. We, of course, are in between systems right now. The next Arctic front is kind of up in through here, getting set to make the plunge to the south and the east. We'll get these numbers up in Canada. That air mass is getting the green light to come south. All right, so tomorrow starts out uneventful as high pressure drifts off to the east. But then we're going to do a repeat, I think, of yesterday. In a lot of places, tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening, snow showers. There'll be a few squalls out there that cause whiteout conditions, reduce visibility suddenly. We may not see as frequent of squalls as we did yesterday, but I think it'll be comparable anyway. And this will be the case for the late afternoon, a good chunk of the evening, and then some streamers of lake effect set up Friday night heading into Saturday morning as well. And there'll be some residual snow showers into Saturday afternoon as well. How much snow are we talking about? I think as a general rule, there'll be a lot of places that get 2 to 4 inches. In Mahoning County, in Columbiana County, Lawrence County, I think some 4 to 8 inch amounts may very well be plausible, especially north of Route 87, and then heading over into a good chunk of Mercer County. I think a lot of places will get 4 to 8 inches of snow. So, again, enough to shovel and plow and cause some disruptions. All right, Sunday starts out quiet with some sun, but then here comes the next round of light snow, Sunday night, early Monday. I think that will bring some fairly inconsequential amounts, but it could make for some slick travel Monday morning. In the meantime, wind chills, of course, that's the story as we kick off the weekend. Friday afternoon wind chills mostly in the teens. And then Saturday morning, it could feel like 10 to 15 below easily to start the day. And wind chills by the evening are still struggling. 7, 8 below zero is what it's going to feel like still Saturday evening in the wake of that second Arctic front. All right, so then after that little weak snow event, if you will, warm advection with a warm front snow event, Sunday night, early Monday, that could drop maybe an inch or two. I think things get more interesting, certainly, as we go into Monday night and into Tuesday. There's going to be a storm. There's going to be a low-pressure system that emerges out of the southeast on the tail end of this front. Where does it go? That's the big question. Does it take a east coast track? Does it come up the spine of the Appalachians? Does it come so far west that we might have precipitation-type issues? These are questions we don't know the answers to just yet. Here's the GFS for Tuesday morning. If this were to be exactly right, in other words, if we took it literally, and it's not going to be exactly right, but if we took it as being exactly right, this would suggest a modest snow event for eastern Ohio, western PA. Maybe something on the order of 2 to 4, 3 to 6. Inconvenience for Tuesday, no doubt, but not a huge storm, not any crippling event. Something that we could handle, just be inconvenienced. And then the storm pulls away by Tuesday night and into Wednesday with a little clipper to follow. That's the GFS model. The European model has a stronger storm and a farther west storm. Here's Tuesday morning on the European with low pressure as far north as West Virginia. If this were to be exactly right, there'd be heavy, heavy wet snow somewhere back in Ohio, and maybe some mixing and sleet and all sorts of junk in far eastern Ohio and western PA if the European were to be exactly right. So the European has a sloppy storm for us. Maybe some wet snow, maybe a mix, something like that. That's the operational European. When you look at the ensemble versions of the European model, and there's 52 members of that ensemble, it paints a less snowy picture. More members of the European ensemble have a farther east track. So when you look at the ensemble probabilities of 3 inches or more, in our neck of the woods, we get into some of these yellowish colors here, and that's kind of in the 30 to maybe 50 or 60% range as far as odds of 3 inches or more. So not great odds, and certainly lower odds than if you just looked at the regular deterministic version of the European model. As far as 6 inches or more, the European ensemble says the odds are real low of that, probably on the order of 10 to maybe 20%. So, we got a long way to go with our early to midweek system next week. I think odds favor us getting some wintry precipitation, but it's not a slam dunk that it's a big storm. It may be a piddling storm, it may be a miss in the farthest east scenarios, or it might be, in the farthest west scenarios like the operational European, it might be some sort of sloppy mix. Stay tuned on that. If you see all sorts of proclamations on social media that there's a big storm coming, take it with a grain of salt, because I don't think we know that just yet. All right, the long-range pattern. It is going to warm up behind that midweek system for the very end of next week, and especially into next weekend. So look at the pattern here as we go towards... Let me back this up, I'm sorry. As we go towards the end of next week into next weekend, you've got more of a zonal flow here across the U.S. I think this could spell some days, at least a few days in the 40s for us. And then I do think the pattern starts to shift again during the final week, maybe, of February, from, say, the 22nd through the 29th. Notice the ridge starts popping out west. We get more of a trophy pattern in the east. I told you in previous versions of this video that the last 10 days of February don't look all that cold, and this may not be abnormally cold. Not sure about that yet. It may just be normal February cold. But it does look colder, anyway, than it did previously, and it certainly looks colder in that last week of February than the previous few days. So next weekend looks pretty mild, and then after that, it could be at or below average for the final week of February. All right, stay tuned on social media. I've got much more stuff posting this evening on the threats for the next couple of days and next week. I'll see you tonight on 21 News at 11. And Weather for Weather Geeks returns tomorrow evening on a Friday. It'll be online at about 8 o'clock on my weather blog at wfmj.com/weather and your WFMJ mobile app.